Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We are, of course, your multi-award winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast. You just literally cannot get 24 hours away from this football club with any kind of quiet-natured news. It always seems to come at once. Back on the show, Adam Osper is in the house, as is Jack from Rule the Roost, and Adam Nathan on for his debut from, of course, Echo of Glory. When will we see Glory again? That is the big question. If it's the first time, you can find us on iTunes. We're on Spotify. We're across all major audio platforms. Have we resetted? Have we calmed down from the transfer window? We're going to find out. This, of course, show is basically just after Johan Lange's sit-down interview, which I was debating with the guys in the green room whether that was worth giving you 8 minutes worth of that. And I decided against bringing that into the show. But I'm sure you'll get more than 8 minutes worth from these wonderful gentlemen about what they've made of the transfer window and more. Because it feels like it lasts for about 8 minutes or so. Back on the show, I know what I've gone and done. I've brought two Adams together at once. How are we going to handle this? I'm not too sure. We'll find a way. And we've got Jack back with us as well. Adam Osper is back. At first, before we get into all the serious stuff, which I know is very serious to come, and you look very serious in the green room, and you actually look amazing on camera for, I don't know, the first one in like a long time in terms of the quality. Visually, you always look okay. Ad, how are you? Love to see you back on the show. You well? And we'll get you to unmute if we can do that.
I am good. Thank you. I got a lot of grief last time about my internet not being good enough and stuff like that. And
we're actually in sync. We're not 15 seconds behind anymore, like the old Mike Bassett movie.
It's only on this stream with you and whatever cheap price that you pay to use StreamYard that causes it. But yeah, no, happy to be on. I don't think I've been on with Jack before. Obviously not Adam, but I know Adam personally well. So
yep,
should be fun. Adam moans more than me.
Fun and Tottenham, does that even go together anymore? Are you sure? Where have you been for the last 20 years? Jack, lovely to be back from All the Roost. How are you, mate? Lovely to see you. It feels like a very serious podcast, so I felt I had to get some serious people to try and dissect what's going on right now, if they can make sense of what is Tottenham right now.
I think that's probably the first time I've been introduced as a serious person, Ricky, so I'll take that, mate. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah.
My pleasure, mate. My pleasure. Listen, mate, lovely to have you on here. And also, on the show for the first time, it sounds like I'm up for a date. Admired from a distance, listened for quite a while. Of course, those guys over at Echo of Glory do a great job over there. And one of the voices over there that I think always seems to, I personally get a real great balance of where Tottenham are right now. Difficult because people must think, God, it must be so negative that you'll find that balance. But it is hard at the moment. It's really challenging. Adam Nathan is on the show. It's lovely to have you here. How are you? Get you to unmute. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here. I thought it was just my mum that sent the nice comments in about the Echo of Glory stuff, but I know that we've got you as well. So how terrific is that? Tremendous.
Oh, mate, lovely to have you here. Lovely to have you here. And look, as I said at the start of the show, we're recording with you just after Johan Lange has given us his post-match window summary, in which he outlined the reasons why Spurs decided not to make, in his terms, stress purchases in a quiet January transfer window, and insisted the club have big plans for the summer business. What's also come out in the last 24 hours or so is that Tottenham Hotspur are planning to replace the outgoing, or now you'd assume gone, Fabio Paratici, and stick to their two-man sporting model rather than handing the full control of recruitment to Johan Lange. I can hear champagne corks popped in the background there by that news potentially. Although you've got to remember, it is the same people that I'd be identifying who is coming in. So is that scary enough in itself? But Spurs have apparently already started the process to try and find a successor to Paratici. But as we know, just the two first-team signings during the winter window, Conor Gallagher, of course, came in for the football club from Atletico Madrid. I think many still see that as quite a logical and sensible signing. And alongside Conor Gallagher, of course, the club also brought in Sousa from Santos, who apparently is up for a challenge and knows what a relegation fight looks like. So at least he's coming into good stock and knows what he's got to deal with, potentially. Adam Osper, let's come to you. And I keep saying we are going to refer to them as ads and ads. So Ad, to open with you, thoughts on that over interview you heard there from Johan Lange. And for those that haven't heard it, sorry to the listeners on audio, because you're getting that in two separate chunks. We couldn't put you through the 8 minutes of it in case you fell asleep. thoughts on that interview you had overall and what you've made of the transfer window?
Okay, so when I went onto YouTube to watch it, I don't subscribe to YouTube, so you get adverts. The adverts was about toenails and toe feet cleaners, and that was probably as interesting as listening to the crap that he put out. I've listened to them every time they've done it, and generally I've historically found them quite interesting to listen to. I think the bit that concerned me the most listening to him was basically saying we've got players coming back from injury soon, and as well as players coming back from injury, we didn't want to panic buy, and we've got big plans for the rest of the season. And I was like, we're 14th in the league. Our squad is pretty average. We're not very good. We really need players in. And pre-transfer window leading up to it, Frank was talking about, we've got a plan. We know what we need to do. We've identified the positions. We've got players lined up. And apparently the board, whoever that is, Vinay, Lange, Paratici, were working unbelievably hard, I think the words were, in order to improve the situation. I think I work pretty hard in my job, and I reckon that if I worked unbelievably hard for the months leading up to the transfer window and through it, I would have a better outcome. I think the bit that concerned me the most about it was just the casualness in which he was just like, well, we couldn't get the players, players weren't available, not much happened. We didn't want to panic. We've got players coming back from injury and we've got things we want to achieve. And you're like, we're 14th. Like, we're crap at the minute. And we've got glaring holes. Most teams go, we want to strengthen and improve the players that we've got. And it was just complete garbage, to be honest with you. It was really poor. And I know like Ben Haynes has got a pretty tricky job in sort of like having to, line that up.
Yep.
But
yep.
I thought his replies were a bit embarrassing. And I think off the back of how Frank has been saying we're working so hard of all of that, it was pretty crap. You asked as well my overall thoughts on the window. I think the last time I was on the pod, we were close to signing Robertson and then it came away.
That's right. I think it collapsed. Yep.
At that point, I was like, okay, we've got 3 players in because he's coming in. And I think there was about maybe 8 to 10 days left in the window. And I thought, okay, well, actually, if we nick another one in and you assume that Robertson was, that's 4 players in a January window. You can argue the toss on what you thought of those players and all of that. But that ends up being actually a very good January window in terms of numbers. And I think the fact that the Robertson deal didn't happen and then absolutely nothing else happened at all is pathetic and leaves us light again, as always.
Again, well, I've always said, for under Enoch, it's very unlikely at any point I can ever think of us actually coming out of a window feeling that we've got everything we've needed to do. Look, I think maybe a lot of football fans feel that in general, right? I'm not too sure if that is a general vibe, but I mean, maybe bar Arsenal fans that have had, obviously in their summer window, a tremendous window in terms of what they brought in. Maybe that's the thing for a lot of clubs. I mean, Jack, to come over to you, he, like I say, he's defended the club's transfer policy and revealed the club did not make signings as it was not a possibility. He said, well, we go into January, we didn't anticipate that we'll have 7 injuries during the month. So that, of course, changes things during the course of a window. He said it's important the club remains disciplined and to make sure we do our best with our ability only to sign players that can generally help the team now or in the future. And he pointed to, of course, as we mentioned, the number of injuries that have happened since the January transfer window opened. What's your gauge, Jack, for you in terms of, I'll ask you the same question, that interview itself and the way January has played out as a whole? And we'll get you to unmute from your side.
It's a difficult one, isn't it, mate? Because there's... I always I wrestle with myself on these things because I'm quite an emotional person, right? And I will be emotions first, and I will get annoyed about things, especially to do with Tottenham. And then sometimes it will take me a couple of days, and I think, well, let's at least try and be a bit rational about this. Let's kind of shelve the animal side and just try and be a bit more analytical. And you do kind of look at things like the Lange interview, and you think, on one hand, we often ask for the club to have give us more clarity into their decisions, like into what it is that they're thinking, what it is that they're planning. And they're doing that, right? They're getting Lange there for a sit-down interview to at least shed some light on what's happening. So on one hand, I'm like, okay, fair enough that they're doing that. But then when you are treated to something like that, when there's no real answer there, when there's no real clarity there, it's pretty much the same old kind of ENIC playbook of tomorrow, mañana, we're going to buy players. There's big glittering, beautiful future just that way. And we are going to get there. We promise you. But when we do get there, we'll tell you that it's tomorrow after that point again. I mean, look, on one hand, you do probably have to say, well, you know, it's not a new board, but at least the structure has changed. Okay, like we know it's ENIC still fundamentally it is, right? It is still in many ways the same people there who are calling the shots, who have their hands on the levers of power at the club. But at least the organizational structure has changed somewhat. Maybe they will take a bit of time to find their feet or whatever. The problem again strikes, doesn't it, when you are looking at the fact that they did make kind of big, bold statements when they first took over, when they first came in, just after the summer transfer windows closed. I think we brought Xavi Simons in, and then a few days later, Daniel Levy got their heave-ho. And then, you know, we've had sort of interviews with Vinay Venkatesham and the like, giving us sort of big promises, spinning this big kind of, again, this beautiful sort of glittering prize that's in our future. And we get towards this transfer window when we can appreciate that January is a difficult month to do business, but at the same time, it's a window where, as we say, we are just outside the relegation zone, and people can call that dramatic if they want to, but that's the way our form has been headed. Like we are in relegation form. We are no way safe thus far, I don't think anyway. So we are heading towards that. We seem to be just stacking injuries like there's no tomorrow. The squad is threadbare. It's tired. It needs more creativity in there anyway. Look, James Maddison's out. That's unfortunate for us. But look, you can't just shelve a season because your one creative player is missing from the team. Like that's not an excuse. You can't just say, well, you know, it's unlucky Maddison's out, so we're not going to have anybody that can play a forward pass in our midfield anymore. You know, there's things like that essentially what I'm saying, there's extenuating circumstances going into this window where they needed to get somebody. They needed to give the place a lift, right? This idea, this sort of carrot that they're dangling for us, we wanted to get Semenyo, but we didn't. Well, you know, exactly. Again, like I'm winding myself up the more I'm talking about this now, Ricky. Sorry, I just, you know, I tried to do this, the kind of like down the middle thing, and now I'm just like, get rid of them, sell the club. You know, I've had enough. I'm a bit annoyed about it, mate. I'll say that. There just needs to be more strategy. There needs to be more strategy. Yeah. There needs to be more structure to our thinking, what it is that we're doing, and actually just show the fans, show us that you actually want to compete. You don't just want to write off another season because, you know, reasons.
Yeah. Just Ricky, just before you go on, like the other bit as well, like about the January transfer window. Everyone knows it's a difficult window, right? Everyone knows that going in, and you've got a bit of an idea of the positions that you need to fill. You know, in my experience, like clubs are talking to agents all the time, and they'll know. Like Man City would have been speaking to Semenyo's agent probably way in advance to get a bit of an idea on things, because that's what happens, right? So most clubs, especially the big clubs, they've got an idea. You know, you've got your targets. You know your targets, and you've probably spoken to the agent already. Then you know what it's going to take from their financial packaging to get them out. And that's the bit that I don't get going into this window. They spoke about it, and then just such little happened. It's just the whole thing's just messy.
Well, Adam Nathan doesn't know this, but I was saving him because I know with Adam there's always great lines that comes. I've tried to let him build up potential anger inside of him before I come on to him now. And that's not to make you even more nervous for you coming to the show. But I mean, just on the window, I've got to say, Fiorentina, if anyone cares, Fiorentina had a cracking window, by the way. They actually completed 5 signings during the January transfer window. I wonder who was doing their business. Was it a certain Mr. Fabio Paratici, which quite interestingly, before I comes in here, since Tottenham put that statement out mid-window from Vinay Venkatesham, People won't be surprised. I know Spurs did absolutely nothing but just tell the world they're up in the wage structure and we're looking to bring in experienced, better players that are going to improve the squad. But Spurs did nothing, and Fiorentina, in the meantime, made sure they got 5 deals over the line to help them. And since Prodigy was linked there, they've gone from bottom of the table, I believe, to 18th, and they'll definitely stay up. It's just a Tottenham thing that kind of happens. Adam Nathan, lovely to have you on the show. Ads, bringing you in. Let's start with you. What do you make of the overall summary of the window and that Johan Lange interview? A bit of a word salad, I'd probably suggest. I wasn't going to put anyone through it.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting there to be a video this quickly. And so I got a text from a mate on one of the threads with the link to the video. And I just assumed it was like one of those, going to be like an AI video of Ben Haynes choke slamming Lange through a table, like one of those new things that, is all the rage these days. And then it started. And I found myself getting more and more frustrated listening to it because, it does feel like the club have done a lot of gaslighting of their supporters. Over the last few months. I think I said to you guys that, like with Olympic judging, if you take away the top score and the bottom score when they're doing the judging, you end up with what is presumed to be a median. And for me, I think if you take away the most extreme of the fan base on either end, I feel like Spurs fans have had a pretty good grasp on the club, over the last few years, that there's not many things that as a collective we've got wrong.
Yep.
And when you hear them basically saying stuff that doesn't fly at all with what we're all seeing, it becomes hugely frustrating. But once the anger subsided after the interview, I ended up feeling more deflated, to be honest, because Lange just does not strike me as a guy that, I'm sure he has qualities, but he doesn't strike me as the guy that I want to listen to as my director of football and employ an awful lot of faith in. But then I started thinking, well, Vinay, I'm sure has talents. But is he the guy that I want to be running the club? I don't think so. Thomas Frank is obviously a good coach. Is he the guy I want to be the manager? Probably not. Then you've got the Lewis family, who I'm sure, well done on making all your money, but do I necessarily trust you to run my club? And I have a feeling that a lot of the receptiveness to Cristian Romero's rant in the week, if we assume it was a rant and not a mistranslation, is that it's probably one person who's got a voice that the fans can almost cling to, because there's just no one there in the hierarchy, pretty much at any level of the club, that when they talk, I want to listen to. And I didn't want Ange to stay at the time. I probably still think it's the right decision, but I do understand why those that loved him, felt so enamored by someone that can take them on a journey with their words, because there's just no one at the club now that I really care about listening to.
Spot on.
Also, this algorithm, when I say someone, like if I say Noe Pamaro, is that going to come up as well? Because I can't believe how quickly
I was actually going to ask how you do that.
It is unbelievul. Sorry.
We're talented. We've not got archives of Timothy Atuba in the background.
I've had such a negative 2 minutes. I wanted to bring a bit of mirth to it by seeing if I could do something. But
carry on. You're doing fantastic. Carry on.
That's why I found it all so deflating, because you can put the anger to one side, whatever, and we all have a rant. But it's the apathy at so many levels of the club that is becoming really difficult to reconcile. And again, I think like when we talk about relegation, it may not happen this year, but from a direction of travel standpoint,
sleepwalking,
it's concerning because it doesn't look like they're moving in a direction that promises anything. And no one's too good to, I don't want to too good to go down, but no one is too good to not end up in a situation where they've got problems.
Just on Johan Lange, guys, I know there's a lot I've got to try and squeeze in an hour. And believe me, I know people won't believe this. I'm trying to do less talking. I know people won't believe that at all. They won't believe that. But to stick with you on that point, and we will go around to Adam Osper as well. Johan Lange, his position, where are we at with that? Because the club are suggesting that what we're hearing, again, reports PR coming out of the club, is that they are looking to replace Fabio Paratici, but they're quite clear on the fact they want to stick to this two-man sporting director model, and just for clear, anyone knows my feelings. I feel like I'm already done with this new brand of the Lewis family, ENIC 2.0. I see nothing here that gives me any confidence whatsoever that in the summer things are going to change. Maybe that's really harsh to come to that judgment in the space of 5-6 months. I just can't believe, like some of the touch points you touched upon there, Adam, is that you look at our position in the league, you look at our injury list at the moment, you can't tell me that Semenyo is the only player in the whole of the market in the world that we tried. I just can't believe that. I mean, what are we employing scouts for? What have we got 2 sporting directors for the price of 1 for? What do we have 4 months of planning for? What was the purpose of that? If you're telling me the only player that we tried for was Semenyo, it just makes no sense. I don't care how lucrative the offer was. I don't care about how much you were going to pay him. To me, it's total irrelevance that you would allow this manager. And you mentioned Ange there, Adam. We're in exactly the same boat 12 months ago where that manager was in the same position, dangerously close to Spurs being in a relegation battle if they weren't already in that for some people's views. We didn't help him either. We did not help him either until the final days of the window. We brought Kinski in, I think, on the first day because Fraser Forster was almost like a tree and goal, with all due respect to Fraser Forster. But just on that point, just to let you carry on, Adam Nathan, I felt like I was a school teacher then. I just did that to differentiate the Adams. Johan Lange's position, what's the purpose of him being here? You say it there for you. This guy, for me, I don't see any aura. I don't see anything that tells me this guy has got the ability to get big deals over the line. Would you have him part of this 2-man sporting structure they seem to be intent in carrying on with?
I think, I'm just a fan. And so for me to come and say that Johan Lange has got no right to be, in a position of power at a football club would be arrogant and disingenuous, to be honest. He might be an absolute whiz. It may be that he's not super comfortable speaking in his second language on a camera to 5 million people. Now, again, maybe I'm being too generous, but enough people have hired him that it would suggest that he has some talent in something. And maybe he is exactly the kind of person that does need to be partnered with a more of a maverick, outgoing director of football who can do other things. I mean, there are enough suggestions that Lange has signed good players in the past. Look, every director of football is going to have duds here and there. I'd like them. It'd be nice if Lange was given the opportunity to spend 500 million. How many good ones can he come out of that? I mean, I think
I would not want him anywhere near that. I would not want him anywhere near.
Maybe not.
Million,
maybe not. But for me, the issue is still above him, as opposed to necessarily saying that he is the issue. Because look, as I said, I'm just a fan. I don't work in the game. All I can sort of judge it is as I see it.
Yeah.
But yes, he is clearly an issue in the role that he appears to be doing right now, but I don't know that he couldn't be good at finding 3 or 4 Lucas Bergvalls every year, which maybe that was something that he did, and maybe Sousa will be brilliant, and the kid from Hearts, maybe that's what he specialises in. So yeah, I find it difficult to say that he, is simply not up to the job, but from a leadership standpoint, he's certainly not the guy that I would want to pin the whole club on and say, yeah, go and run the place, because he doesn't strike me as having that aura to do that.
No, just on that point, Ad, coming over to you, just on Lange and his position, where are you on that? There's a lot of fans that look at this window, they look at that interview, and I think for a lot of fans, they can't quite understand how this guy is being given now, as of the moment, the full control over the recruitment. I just wonder, how much do you believe him in regards to the summer, if anything will change? Because as I've mentioned, for me, I've already made my mind up. I would roll the dice now and have a difference in ownership. But again, I know some people maybe are concerned about that. But I mean, I think about how worse can it get? Well, we're sleepwalking ourselves looking like an Everton, or dare I say even a West Ham, by recent form right now. So, Ads, Lange, what does his long-term future look like for you?
I'm glad that you're talking less, Ricky.
Go on.
I think like he obviously isn't a number one, right? In any business in sort of leadership roles, whether that be in and around a board, you've got your heavyweights that take up the key positions, and he's obviously seen that he isn't that person. But as Adam says, and it may well be that he is good at unearthing your Bergvalls, Grays, these types of younger players, and he is good at doing that, and he does have a talent in that. Therefore, having somebody like that in as part of your team, I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. I think if he is the guy, I think that interview just shows you he's just like a bit of a wet lettuce.
There's no leadership. There's no aura about it. There's nothing about him that's right. She was a negotiator.
And if you're going in, like you say, like for a Semenyo, and you're going in against the Man City's top guy or the top guy at Arsenal as an example, you're like, would he be the guy that's going to like inspire you to want to join the club? Probably not. But what I would say is that, you know, there might be something that he is good at, because Tottenham are pretty quick to sack people and get rid of people if they're no good, or they just think they're useless in the back office. So
can I say one thing to you, Ed, to let you come back in though? Who on that board has got any degree of footballing knowledge apart from him? That's what would worry me.
But we have spoken about this before, and I have said on here, no board at any club has got a whole ton of footballing ability. So,
no, but apart from him, who has got any?
Yeah, but that's the same at any club. That's why you put these people in, and you can say, well, that's why Vinay's putting more than one person in, because he wants more footballing people in. So you can't have it both ways. You can't have, well, Lang needs to go, we've got no one there, and then them saying, actually, we're going to put in 2 or 3 sporting directors because we want more football people in. So what do you want? On the board of directors at a football club, there are no football people. That's just a fact. Apart from Salford City, which has Gary Neville and stuff like that. The rest of them, they're all business people. Man U, Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool. There's no football-related people. What they do is they then have a football division that takes care of it. And that's what we need to basically build out, which I suspect is what they wanted Paratici and Lang to do collectively. So I don't necessarily have a problem with them having like multiple football people, because that's almost doing what you want them to do. But that guy shouldn't be the lead of that.
It's worrying, isn't it, the fact that we all seem to be on that same kind of page. I haven't come to Jack yet, just quickly on him, Jack. In terms of his future for you, what purpose is he serving here? He can bring the odd 1 or 2 good young players, but we've come to a point where we've got a lot of young players that are good, but we're at a point now where we really genuinely need players that are coming and directly impact the first team. Do you believe, Jack, him when he says that the summer they're already planning for that? Because, like you suggested in the green room, they were planning for this January transfer window. They had 4 months to plan for this. How can you trust a word what's being said?
They might be planning for it. They might be planning for this big summer. What does that mean? If they've written Mbappe on a whiteboard somewhere and we're supposed to, you know, they can say they've tried. It's, I don't know. It's strange.
They're working day and night, Jack. Day and night.
Exactly.
Hours. That's what we're told.
He's good, isn't he? I saw a compilation of him. Yeah.
Maybe that's what they do.
That's what worries me. Jack, that's what actually worries me. They'll go and look at that snippet of Odebear, no disrespect to whoever's putting it on X, and look at that and think, God, we made a good signing in Wilson. Look, Odebear might turn out to be a very, very good player. He's not one I'm advocating for selling right now, but all I'm saying is we need players that are going to come in and directly impact the first team. And I'll ask you, based on that interview, do you have any more confidence when you see that you think the summer's going to come that's going to directly, massively impact the first team at Tottenham?
No, I don't, and I think this is part of the problem with Tottenham right now, and it's kind of a reductive view on things. And look, I know this perhaps shouldn't factor into stuff, but it does. You know, like you see with politics in football, personality is a big thing, right? What we have, because I take on board what Adam Nathan was saying. Again, it feels weird, doesn't it, saying both names? But still,
I'm not telling you off.
Yeah, no. but what Adam was saying, that, you know, it's one skill to be able to identify talent. It's another to go up and speak in front of 5 million people, and I do appreciate that. But you know, I'm sorry to do it. I'm sorry to mention them down the road, but when you cast your mind back to a few years ago when Edu was still at the club, right? You had Edu, you had Arteta. These were people who were speaking decisively. They were talking about making footballing decisions. They were talking about wanting to win things, that they were very much focused on bringing in the best players, building the strongest possible squad to go out and actually achieve things. What do we constantly hear from Tottenham? What's the face of our club? Is Lange, is Thomas Frank, are guys who, you know, whatever. Again, like I say, everybody has a different personality type, but these guys don't fill me anyway with confidence. You know, Thomas Frank in his first press conference said the one thing he can guarantee is that we're going to lose games. You know, we've got Lange, who, in as we see most of his interviews like today, gives us these kind of fairly vague assurances that good things are going to happen. But what does that actually mean? We don't see anything from this. Nope. And the thing that does worry me a little bit about Lange and his position right now is, you know, I was under the impression that when he first came into the club, he was the guy that was, you know, if I'm to use like a shorthand term for it, the data nerd. He was the guy that was going to be there to find the Bergvalls, to find the Odebers, to find the players for tomorrow, to find the players that in 2-3 years' time step into the first team, who are brilliant players. They are there, they're learning from the players. Odebear's there to learn from Son Heung-min or whatever, whoever, Semenyo, if we did get him across the line. That's what Lange's function was supposed to be. Paratici, from my understanding, was the guy that was bringing in the big transfers. He had the extensive contact book, apparently, which seemed to be mostly Italian clubs, but still. He has this contact book that means he can speak to all the directors of football from all the clubs across Europe and find us deals when we need them, and that sort of seemed to be fine. But what seems to be happening now is that there was a sort of awkward power dynamic between Paratici and Lange. Paratici's going, and it makes me worry a little bit that we might be bringing in a second director of football, but do they answer into Lange? Is Lange sort of the de facto guy in charge now? Are they going to be on the same level? Again, there's a lack of clarity there. There's a lack of clarity about what the strategy is at the club, who's making decisions, what decisions they're supposed to be making. And like I say, ultimately, look, everyone here, we talk about Tottenham for hours and hours and hours constantly. I don't think anybody here could give you a decisive answer as to what it is Tottenham are actually doing. What do we want to do? What do we want to achieve? And that, to me, is a problem. And it's been a problem at Spurs for quite some time now.
It is. I did try and say to the guys, we are going to try and aim for an hour. I'm really worried that we're going to go over that hour because of just the fact I'm looking at the sheer nature of the running order, which is concerning me. Look, I think we've probably said enough in regards to Lange and regards to that window, a window which, of course, ends with Conor Gallagher through the door and Sousa through the door. And I promise, just one round of table quick on this. Does anyone genuinely believe here that we're in for a real whirlwind of a summer? Jack, start with you. Yes or no? Yes or no? Do you think we're going to have a completely transformative summer where it's going to really see a direct impact on the first team?
No.
Okay. Adam Nathan. I can't keep doing this.
I think there'll be a lot. I think there'll be a lot of movement, but I don't think anyone will be, blown away with the magnitude of the individual deals. It will be just a trading fair again, as opposed to anything that drastically increases the quality of the squad and team.
Okay, Osper.
I anticipate a whole load of links to really good players just before the point in which our season tickets need to renew.
Yeah. I agree.
And then they all fall away.
They all fall away. Nothing.
I know, but I think on that, I think we're in a really precarious position. You're seeing empty seats now, much, much, much more regularly.
Yep.
And that is where they're going to be hit hard. And I don't think people will be renewing en masse like they did last year because we're so expensive. So I think they need to, they need to go early. And spend money. I don't think they will.
Well, it's all coming out now, isn't it? The fact that we're getting all this PR spin now since the window's closed. The fact that they were offered the chance to sign John Duran on deadline day, but the player was keen on the move. But Spurs put their trust in Rano Kalimawani. I mean, back to Jack's point there about what are they doing, what are they seeing, what are they thinking. Yeah, what are they doing? What are they seeing? What are they thinking? Bar the clubs that he's played, that are his former clubs. Does that itself tell you how concerning that is? Look, we're going to move on. We'll come on quite nicely. It's a nice segue into Cristian Romero and where that leaves us with his future, because obviously minutes after that transfer window slam shuts, Romero took to Instagram where he said that, in a number of words, paraphrasing, that the lack of availability of players is both disgraceful and unacceptable. And then since that, just a day later, we get a report out of Argentina from I think you guys have a very reliable source in Gaston Edul. That was the same source that I believe at the time was seen at the Tottenham training ground filming Romero, which I think at the time he was wanting away from the football club. So the line out of Romero's camp at the moment is that he's looking for a move away this summer. I know, Osper, you've got quite strong views on Romero and the words that he said, but actually I want to start with Ads, if I can, on this one. Ads, your thoughts on it when you saw the words from Romero after the transfer window slammed shut, and then these posts subsequently since, and then these talk about him looking for a move. Where are you on that, Ad Nathan, for you?
I think I see it as quite a chicken and egg situation. I know Adam Osper is going to disagree with me somewhat on this, which is completely fine. But you see articles coming out this week saying, Cristian Romero can say what he wants, but really it's not very good that the club, that he's slagging off the club, and this wouldn't happen at a serious club. And then the sentence goes on without anyone stopping to say, well, yeah, that's why it's happening, because they are not acting at all like a serious operation. And if it's coming that a player, your captain, is the only person to put the head up above the parapet and say what they think, I mean, whatever you think about Romero, it's an unhealthy situation for the club to be in regardless. I do think that the die is cast with Romero. He has been seen as a hothead from day one because of the way he's, the people talk about him as a pundit. And I think the way that Spurs are as a club, there's a little bit of get back in your box. How dare you expect better? I think if Harry Maguire had come out and said something on a similar vein about the Glazer operation, for example, there'd be a raft of pundits coming out in the press to support him and say, well, the Glazers are running this club into the ground and Harry Maguire has stepped up, proud Englishman and made it better. I don't think there's a huge difference between how the Glazers act and how the Lewises act, really. That there's the natural suspicion of Americans in the game, which makes people a bit more unnerved by the Glazers. But in terms of how they're being run, I don't see it as a vast difference. And look, it's not great that your captain keeps coming out and slagging off the club, but none of it's great. And if it takes someone to do that, to at least get the conversation started, I can't say that I'm too disappointed with him. And I certainly don't think he should be sanctioned for basically saying what all of us think. How can I possibly criticize the guy for basically saying exactly what I think about them?
Yeah, I agree. Can I go to Jack next? Then we are going to come on to Osper on it. Just, Jack, to come over to you on Romero, and just for some people's clarity on there in terms of what's been said in the last year and a half. He said that Tottenham need to spend more in line with their rivals in order to compete for the biggest trophies like the club deserves. He thanked the Argentina national team medical staff, that is, for helping recover from an injury he suffered at Spurs. He praised Ange Postecoglou for succeeding at the club despite the many obstacles that always existed and always will exist. He accused figures at the club of spreading lies and only speaking up when things are going well. And he's labelled Spurs' latest injury crisis as unbelievable and disgraceful. And I think back to what Adam just said there, that it feels like he knows more than anyone in terms of the changing room, or maybe even around the football club, just how much change is required at Tottenham. Osper will come in a few minutes on him. But Jack, what did you make of the latest set of comments? And again, the fact that we're now hearing reports of suggestions that he wants to move this summer, only, like I say again, merely months after signing a new deal at the football club. Some would say maybe he's felt let down by maybe promises that were assured to him at the time of signing that new deal.
I get it. Look, I know people don't really like it. People don't really like it when professionals go off script. There is a funny, almost, I don't know, Victorian veil over football. There's very much you can't say that. And people can't talk about what's actually happening. We all have to go along in this bubble where people just reiterate the same old kind of media trained lines a lot of the time. We can maybe talk about Romero coming from a culture where people are much more expressive, where there's, people are, say, perhaps more liberal with their words and everything like that. So that could be a consideration there to be had. Much like Adam said, I don't really mind the guy saying all of the stuff that most of us are all thinking. I do think there's an air of hypocrisy with the media's treatment of it. It's actually really wound me up this week a bit. The whole kind of, he can't say that about the owners. That's just not cricket, because it's nonsense. If had it been a Harry Maguire, as Adam says, it would be being heralded. It would be being heralded as this guy who wants better for his club, wants better for his fans. I mean, if we break it down that way, Cristian Romero signed a new contract this summer. I don't think he's been an exemplary defender in every single game he's played this year, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But what I do think he has shown is a lot of heart. He's shown pretty much every single time he's been on the pitch, the desire to make Tottenham better, to fight to the very end. We've seen that manifest in him scoring a number of goals for us this year, some of those crucial goals. And what's to say that, he's not just using his status as, and let's not pretend he's not, he is one of the club's most important players. He's the club captain after all. But even in a playing sense, his experience, his stature within the game, he is one of our more important players. What's to say that he's not using that to make the board uncomfortable, to say, look, if you don't change your way, if you don't actually create a club, you don't create a squad that is competitive, then why am I going to waste my career here? He's probably looked at Harry Kane, who's been sat at Tottenham for a decade, who has tried his best to make this club better. And, that's one thing you can say of Harry Kane, no matter what people say about the way in which he left or the goodbye message or this or that. Every time Harry Kane put the shirt on for the club, he tried his absolute best to make Tottenham the best club we could be. We didn't even let him into the club. We didn't even let him back into the club to say goodbye to people when we sold him. And we wonder why we leave a sour taste with players. I have zero sympathy for the ownership of this club being made to feel a bit uncomfortable by somebody. It probably will signal the end of his career at Tottenham. He probably will be gone. But, ultimately, you're going to need to find a La Liga club that's going to pay the sort of money that Spurs will want for him, because he is going to be expensive and not a lot of La Liga clubs have money, which is probably going to find us in a place where I don't know. I don't know how that deal is structured or what happens, but I don't think it will be as straightforward as people will make out that he will leave the football club.
Yeah, he's got 6 goals and 4 assists in 27 appearances so far. That includes that bicycle kick against Newcastle United. Just before Osper comes in there, guys, thanks so much to all the support. We've got over nearly 5,500 of you that are watching us live. Really, really appreciate all the support for the show. If I can just say at this point, if you haven't already, please go and check out Jack on Rule the Roost pod. There's a lot of instant post-match reactions. You got Adam over at Echo of Glory. They're a regular Monday. I know you're a Monday morning listener, Ad, but you also remind me, because you sometimes occasionally do a Thursday, don't you, as well? Is it Mondays at the moment? What's the plan?
It's normally the same number of pods as Spurs have games in a week. So we'll do if we play Wednesday, we'll do Thursday. If otherwise, we'll have we're currently, because there's no midweek game, we're having a long week of training in the studio, and we're trying to get some new principles instilled.
Okay, I like that. Well, maybe we should get Johnny in here to run this gaff. I tell you, we might be more competent on time. We've got the superb Adam Osper as well, back from Sports Finance. Guys, another really powerful edition of Last One on Spurs. If you can, for us, hype, subscribe to the show. That would be greatly appreciated. Osper, to bring you in on this about Romero, and I just need to get an okay from the guys, because I'm conscious, I'm looking at the time. We're going to overrun over an hour, guys. Is that right? Hour 10 out. Is that okay? Just I'm checking a heads up. Is that okay? Thank you, chaps. You're superstars. What was I ever doing? I know Osper's thinking, what was I ever doing promising an hour? Although I did tell Adam that I was hoping that it was going to be under an hour, but there's a lot to cover. Romero, again, according to who you believe, he's seen as the glue at Tottenham within the dressing room because of the amount of respect he's gained there. I know many have suggested that he's seen as a bit of a powerful figure now behind the scenes at Tottenham. Of course, signed that new deal in the summer. There was reports during the week that he opened each bottle of champagne at the Bilbao after party, saying this effect was on the president at the time. Is a degree of feeling, Osper, that really promises haven't been kept? I know when we spoke about this conversation over on WhatsApp, you were concerned about just what effect that's having in the dressing room, purely from the fact that, I'll let you do the analogy around, if you are seen as one of the leaders and you just keep absolutely berating the hierarchy above, does that actually help in the long run? Whilst it, to some, like Adam Nathan has said, and I agree with him, he is saying everything that I feel as a fan right now. But in the long term, is that helping us?
Well, the answer is no. So, I agree with everything everyone said. I agree with what you've said. I agree with what Adam Nathan said. And I agree with what Jack said. I agree. What he said, I loved it because he spoke for all of us. Okay?
Yeah.
So, if you take that at face value, that's brilliant. He's speaking for all of us. What he's actually doing, selfishly, is trying to get a way out of Tottenham eventually. Yeah? That's what he's trying to do. The problem I have with it, which I've tried to sort of speak on Twitter, and I went backwards and forwards with too many people and got really bored trying to explain it, so hopefully people are listening into this, is if you look at Romero's character, he's very outspoken, he's a bit of a maverick, he throws his toys out the pram and so on, I know for that he is causing problems behind the scenes. So if you look at a football club and you've got rules that you set out for people, if you're late for training, you get fined and all of these things, he has done all of those things, but he gets a bit of a pass. So therefore, what happens is if you've got Jed Spence, for example, what does he start doing? He starts turning up late. Oh, he's turning up late, I'm not. So all of a sudden it causes issues. After the last thing that Romero said, Frank goes, me and Lange have sat down and we've spoken to him and we've explained it thing. Well, now what he's doing is just completely undermine them. So he's just basically shown, well, actually, I couldn't care less. It's completely
Frank's got very little authority. Frank's got very little authority.
Yeah. So which is fine, because it might be that we all don't want Frank as a manager, which again is absolutely fine. I've got no problem with that. I know Adam hates him and it's fine. And that's all cool. Like, that's all fine. But the point is, if you come back to the bare facts, we all want Spurs to win games. And if you're working in a company, so Adam is a chef, a very good chef, by the way. Check out his food if you haven't. He's brilliant. When Adam is doing his job with his team, if he is in a horrific mood and being negative and slagging other people off and the quality of food and all of those different things, that will impact negatively all of his work colleagues and the standards will go down. If he doesn't,
would sound that, Osper, is that, but I'm sure Addy's business has been run like a shit show for the last 20 years.
No, I get that, but it's his bit. I understand that. Yeah. But we're wanting the players to go out on the pitch and perform well. And what you've got is discontent amongst them all, where they actually don't like the club. They get pissed off with everything. They're angry with everything. One person seeing Romero slagging off the club. All of a sudden, the younger players are thinking, oh, right, is this a shit place to be? Is it not nice? Is it not good? Do I want to be here? And all of it, isn't that my chest? So what I'm saying is, like, it will cause a problem if you have a really negative person in your working environment. His negative personality and negative thoughts and impact rub off on other people. Their standards drop, everything gets worse, and everything becomes more negative. And that is the position that Spurs as a team are in, and where you don't have maybe a really strong manager who can bring all of that together and control it. You have the situation that you have now. So, like, whilst I like everything he did,
I think it's important to emphasise what you're saying there, Ad. You're saying you like the fact that what he's saying, just to be very, very true on what you're saying here, but what you're saying, you're concerned about what impact it is having in that dressing room in regards to culture, right? Which
I know it's a problem.
Yeah.
I know it is a problem. You know, so you imagine, right, if he doesn't like Frank either, he's probably fucking off training.
Well, I think, can I be honest here? But I think that's fairly evident, because I mean, I think all of us, most of us were at the West Ham game. I mean, Romero's the one initiating the substitutes.
Right, I know. So what I'm saying is, and people used the example before of Harry Maguire. If Harry Maguire had come out, well, he hasn't. No Man United player has ever come out against the Glazers, because people have respect for the hierarchy. And if your captain has got no respect for the hierarchy, it's a problem. I get it. I don't have what he's saying is correct. But if your captain has no respect for the hierarchy, everyone around him isn't going to either. They're going to say, well, fuck these guys. I've got no respect for them. We want Van der Ven to sign a new deal. He's going to be sitting there thinking, he's going to be sitting there chatting around thinking, I'm not signing a new deal. I'm not staying here.
Can I just say one thing, though? I do think that also does remove the agency of the other players. I don't completely discount everything that you're saying there, Adam, but I think you have to bear in mind that they're all probably in a situation where they're all seeing the problems that are around them. And I think it is worth remembering from everything that we heard going into the Europa League final, if we're talking about Cristian Romero having a negative impact on the dressing room, it was apparently Cristian Romero that was the one leading the charge in the hotel when all the lads are playing pool, messing about a bit before the final. He's the one that said, get your fucking act together. We've got a final tomorrow. We've got to win this, you know? And so he's a passionate guy, isn't he? Right.
Yeah, but what you're saying is exactly my point. Yeah. So he is a leader and a captain, and therefore people follow him. So where he is doing that before the final, people have followed him and we've gone on to win it. when he's then going off on a really negative spiral, people will follow that as well. That's the point. So you're just almost agreeing with me.
Yeah, fair. You've kind of got me there, but still. but what I would say is that it's still, the fish rots from the head, doesn't it? It's coming from the club.
And I've said all along, I don't disagree. Clearly he has signed a new deal based on promises that he's been told about, like we've been told. He's been fed all the crap that we've been fed. I'm not deflecting. All of the blame at Tottenham Hotspur comes from the top. It's rotten. I hate them. I want them out. I'm not in any way moving them out of the blame for this. I'm just saying, which is what you've just said, he's your captain, he's your leader, he's the man that brings everybody together. So therefore, if you're a young kid, you're going to latch onto the negativity or the positivity, right?
On this point, just to bring ads in as well on this, I think what's interesting is that I think you both kind of come to that point there. What does this mean for Frank? Because Frank only addressed this issue coming around to you, ads. What are we, a month or so ago? And he said it was a mistake. Right? That's what he claimed. It was a mistake. But the tweet was just edited. It still remained up. So the mistake wasn't taken down. It was left up. So then Frank obviously is going to speak about this later in the week, right, in the press conference. What is he meant to say after Romero has once again, in the space of, it's not even months, it's weeks of, again, the frustration, the anger towards the hierarchy. Is it just completely undermining Frank? And I think it comes to the point, again, where we all probably feel the same on this. There is just real lack of authority about the Dane at the moment. Where are you on that view, Ed? That's Adam Nathan.
Yeah, I think obviously we've changed the topic of conversation, but ultimately everything is so intrinsically linked. And I think a lot of it comes from there just not being a voice and a proper leader at the club. If I own Tottenham, which God forbid for the rest of you if that ever happened, because we would be having all sorts of bother, I can promise you that. Much as I talk a good game.
I keep saying that, so I keep saying it's like a fan's gone in there and run it, but to be honest, not even a fan could do this amount of damage that's been doing to us recently. But
the way people talk about, Romero's going to leave now. Well, it's February the 4th, right? So he's going to be there until at least mid-May. If I own Tottenham, and I felt the same way about Harry Kane when the writing felt on the wall he was going to leave, I would be spending every minute of my waking day trying to put the conditions in place for someone like Cristian Romero to want to stay at the club. For me, that's what an owner is there to do. I am there to make sure that we can be the best we can be, create the best environment for my people to work in. Any of us that work in businesses, run our businesses, that's basically what we do, right? We try and create an environment where everyone wants to come to work, is happy, and we can thrive as a result. But the problem is, there was a comment in the chat earlier about, Edu and Arteta, how sort of forthright they would be. Vinay, Lange, Frank, they strike me as the kind of people that in a game of pass the parcel, they're sort of desperate for the music not to stop. So they don't have to open the present. They can just keep passing it along and it can be the next person's responsibility. There's just such a vacuum of alpha power, for want of a better expression, that we could talk about Romero, what's Frank going to say? Is anyone going to care what Frank has to say? Because it's just going to be fluff to fill the questions that Sky Sports and Alistair Gold have to ask him.
Well, I think, and that's probably the exact reason why Romero feels he can even talk out, right? Because, and we said this about why hasn't Harry Maguire spoken out? Because he probably had enough respect for his manager, his board, whatever it might be. Whereas, as Adam says, I can't use the analogy of pass parcel, but that good analogy that he just used, Romero probably thinks, I don't respect any of these guys. They're all wet lettuces. I'll say what I want. What are they going to do? Give me a little slap on the hand. And that will rub off on other people as well, the players and so on. And that was the point that I'm trying to make, right?
I totally hear that.
Which isn't a great thing, because we want to see results on the pitch at the end.
Okay. To close off this initial part of the conversation now, ads for you, just to come back around to ads on this point. Do you expect Romero to stay beyond this summer, or do you think it's done and he will be getting his move come the end of the summer? Because I read the charge sheet out there. How much more can he say to the ownership?
Look, I think in a World Cup summer, he might be pissed for the whole of August if they win the World Cup again. So he may just not have the energy to push through a transfer. You never know. It's a really tricky one. That guy who put it out, it's a Cristian Gaston or whatever his name is, seems to be a pretty reliable source within the Argentinian players. I would imagine that Romero would have to kick up a heck of a fuss in order for the price to be low enough for one of the Spanish clubs to be able to afford him. So I think it's a different game to when it was maybe 10 years ago when everyone had the money to buy players like this. So I wouldn't want to make a prediction either way. My hunch is that he will end up staying, and I hope that's because a new manager's come in who can sort of lead him and make him feel wanted.
How long was his new deal? Sorry. How long
4 years. I think 4-year contract. It was a 4-year contract, I believe. 4-year contract. Gaston, you come in there quickly, yes or no? You think he'll be here next summer?
I mean, I don't know. I sort of agree with Adam. I think he's a bit of a hothead. And I think, if we end up having an okay end to the season, if Frank goes and they go early and spend a bit of money, then those types of things can change quite quickly because he's grumbled about leaving before.
Yeah.
But I do think if he signed a 4-year contract, he's going to cost, you'd assume, north of 60, I suspect, for somebody like him.
Okay. All right. Jack, very quickly for you. Next summer, is he here or not under whoever it's going to be, Frank or whoever's the unlucky person to get this job next? Or lucky person, depending if they're listening. We want them. Go on, Jack.
It's hard to know. I think the only way it goes is if Madrid fancy him. If Real Madrid sort of fancy it. I sort of think they're going to take one of him or Van de Ven, really. So maybe he might not be.
Who would you rather go? There's a question.
No comment on that one.
I feel like I'm going to say something here that's going to lead us into another conversation. I really don't want to, but very quickly I've got to squeeze this in. A lot of people are suggesting if it's Pochettino, he'll definitely stay. I think people need to cast their mind back when Pochettino first came into the club. I think he made a real conscious effort of trying to get players in that were really buying into him. Didn't like too many players that were very much kind of vocal, if we remember. I think, that time he gave Kabul the captaincy, that I think he realised he made a massive mistake, took the captaincy away from Kabul. You sort of like to buy your leave. I think Lennon left and he very early into Pochettino leaving. So I wouldn't just assume because it's a compatriot that Pochettino would love to have him around. I felt at the time Poch did bring a lot of young players in that were very much kind of obedient to what he wanted. So we'll see how it does play out. We will. Look, we're going to go for our final break of the show. We're going to quickly just fill in this story around Daniel Levy's stake in Tottenham and what that is looking like at the moment. And then we're going to close on the Man United preview. Thanks again, guys. What's over nearly 7,500 of you watching us live. We appreciate your support. It must mean that we are just coming out of a window to get those kind of numbers. So we appreciate it. It's probably due to these guests rather than me talking because, like I say, Osper said he wants to hear less of me. But Adam Osper is back on the screen. Thank you, Ed, for your time. As always, we appreciate it. We're joined by Jack over at Ruler Roost. Make sure you check him out as well. And, of course, Adam Nathan from Echo of Glory. Please make sure you go and check those wonderful human beings out who have also gone through a tough season. They continue to go through a tough season like us all. 3 fellow Spurs sufferers that are having to talk about Spurs more. That's why I look all like this. No offense, guys. Right, we're going to quickly just squeeze in this story around Daniel Levy because there's been suggestions in the last 24, 48 hours that there's 2 failed Spurs bidders that are joining forces to try and buy Daniel Levy's stake in Tottenham. Now, despite stepping down as Spurs chairman in September, Levy still has a 29.88% stake in, of course, the football club, along with ENIC holding the majority of the football club. Levy has attracted interest in his shares, but important to remember that a purchase would not deliver, it appears, control of the football club. I think what's become known in these last 3-4 months is the more visibility of the Lewis family, the likes of Charlie Lewis, Vivian Boycher and Nick Boycher, who are, of course, seen as now the faces of the Lewis family. And, of course, they've got Vinay Venkatesham, who is really the spokesman for them at the moment. Now, just very quick on this, guys. I mean, a lot of links right now. Where do you see this kind of land of play with regards to Levy's stake? If we start with you, Osper, on this very quickly, we're going to come on to Man United. How do you see this materialising? Because there's obviously reports suggesting Daniel's going to hold out for a certain price. You've got this chap, Brooklyn Eric, who was a former DJ that looks like he's teaming up with NG Wing-Fai for apparently an offer that they're going to put towards Daniel, although Daniel apparently is holding out for a higher price, if you believe what's being said by Simon Jordan at the moment, who apparently has had a conversation with Daniel around this. Gut feeling, what happens with this? Will it move anywhere, Ad? What are you expecting?
I mean, I think it's a bit of a non-story, to be honest. Like, if he gets offered £1 billion for shares, he'll sell. and good luck to him for £1 billion. I'm sure he'll be delighted.
Do you care, Adam, who is taking that over? Do you care where that 30% is going?
The only way in which it could be potentially interesting is if it's right, I'm going to get 30% and then I'm going to go for the full takeover of ENIC after that. If it's him just selling his stake to get out and get rid, it is what it is. Based on his stake, no one becomes a majority shareholder or has any say in the run of the business. So It doesn't matter. If it's somebody coming in with a view, right, I'm going to get a foot in the door and then I'm going to go and buy the rest of ENIC out on a later date, then obviously I'm all for that. But if he's just selling it to make a ton of cash, then good luck to him.
Okay, and gut feeling, what do you think, Osper, will happen with that percentage? Do you think he will try and sell it back to the Lewis family, or do you think it will be a independent party? Okay.
Knowing Levy, he'll be trying to sell that on somewhere else, probably to make things difficult for them in the future.
Yeah. All right, Jack, just to come down to you quickly on this subject. Gut feeling for you, Jack, this whole report around this stake being made available for Levy for sale, where do you see that going, Jack, for you? Do you have a vibe as to where that will end up, whether that will end up in the hands of foreign investment or whether that will go to somebody else?
Don't know. I can't really pretend this is my forte, Rick, but
no, me neither.
I did see Simon Jordan talking about it earlier. So make of that what you will. Who said he had spoken to Daniel Levy about it, who reckoned that these people are just again after a bit of publicity. Maybe were you to speculate, you would say that this is hopefully a chance to try and get ENIC to just buy Levy out. I think from ENIC's perspective, and I think probably from our perspective, if you're somebody that wants ENIC to sell up, the club is a more attractive proposition if somebody owns the whole club and can sell that on. You're not having to barter with somebody else, a third party on the side as well. If ENIC want to sell the club on, you would imagine that sooner or later they will pay Daniel Levy what he wants, have full control of the club, and then maybe look to move it on. But I don't know. I don't know enough about this world, mate.
Same as you, Jack. Absolutely got not a clue on this. Adam Nathan, does it come on to you on that point? Gut feeling, what do you see, or what do you see happening if this is going to make any movement in the next few months or so?
I think best if I answer the question with a question, probably to Adam Osper, who I probably know a lot more about this than I will. But in a situation like this, can Daniel Levy just sell to whoever he wants without anyone from ENIC having the ability to intercept? Or is it just a case of, if I want to give it to, Ricky Sachs from Last Word on Spurs, he owns.
Right, I definitely don't want that at the moment. I've got enough.
Well, the subscriptions you guys have got, surely you can't be far off. It's only $1 billion.
They're just shares. Well, I assume that's so. You'd assume without knowing it. So you'd assume, given the fact of who he is and how he acquired his shares originally, they would be the top shares that you could possibly own. And therefore you make the decision on those as to when you're going to sell them. What you might have in a business is like the ability for us to buy into Tottenham when they were a public company, but you don't have any voting rights or anything like that. But I suspect Daniel has got all of those A-class shares right at the very top that he can get rid of and dispose of as he wishes.
But then hypothetically, could ENIC not, see the offer that's about to, be sold for up the offer? That increases the valuation of the club. So when they sell overall, they could legislate getting more money as a
they could do, but probably that the flip side to that is they shunted Levy out as chairman. He didn't want to go. They've tried to sidestep him. I don't think he's going to do things to make things that easy for them. And he's a money man, so if he's getting offered $1 billion, he's probably going to say to them 1.4 for you. So look, long term, does it? Long term, you can flip it two ways. Does it make it easier to sell a business if you've got one owner? It does. But if you buy Daniel Levy shares for $1 billion and in 6 months or 1 year, you can increase the value of the club and you can make a profit, make that $1 billion into $1.5 billion in a year, then that shareholder will sell out as well. And I'm also not sure if you had a majority shareholder, I say that 28.9% or whatever it is. I'm not quite sure whether he's got voting rights over whether to veto the deal. Anyway, ENIC might be able to say we're forcing the deal as a majority shareholder.
Okay, interesting. Well, look, we'll bring you up to date on more of it whenever it comes. Let's go back to Spurs on the pitch. Oh, no. Sorry. On the pitch, it's bad enough off, isn't it? Right, okay. But we are 4 games unbeaten. I'm looking for positives. We're 4 games unbeaten. Man United to come. Obviously, Spurs will be looking to end Michael Carrick's winning run there since he was named interim coach. They've picked up 3 wins from 3 under their new manager before Spurs roll into town. We'll probably get these stats in now because it won't happen too often with Spurs and United. I don't think carrying on. When you look at Spurs' record at the moment against Man United, it is fairly impressive. Of course, we beat them 4 times last season as a whole. I don't think Spurs have had this kind of record against United for many, many years. We're actually unbeaten in our last 8 meetings against United. It's our longest run ever without defeat against them. While in the 21st century, only Chelsea have gone longer against the Red Devils. Jack, we'll start with you. Thoughts on the game against Man United at Old Trafford on Saturday? Are we seeing a spring in our step, despite the fact that we'll add we're yet to register a domestic win in 2026, but we are 4 games unbeaten?
I mean, if we play anything like we did in that second half against Manchester City the other day, then I'd back us to give anyone a game. But it's all about keeping that momentum, isn't it? Can Solanke play like he did in that second half for a full match? Can he even play a full match at all right now? The squad is threadbare. And I don't want to be negative about it because I do think we have been playing well lately. Xavi Simons is, dare I say it, starting to show some of the promise that we were, hoping he would when we first signed him. There are a few positive signs there. Conor Gallagher has given us something extra in that midfield alongside Xavi Simons. I think Polinia supported those two really well, but Manchester United themselves have turned a bit of a corner, haven't they? Carrick's kind of got them knocking the ball about pretty nicely, got them believing in themselves. So it's not going to be an easy match, but I'd take a draw all day right now. I know that's not really very Tadaris to do, but right now I'd snap your hands off for a draw.
Okay, Jack, thank you so much for that. Let's get a prediction from Jack. You're going to go for a draw, Jack, or what do you feel, heart of your head?
2-1 Spurs.
Bloody hell, okay, God, we are going crazy. Let's go to Osper quickly. Osper, coming down to you. Man United to come. Obviously, we'll know more when obviously Frank sits down for his press conference and tells us there's a couple more players that are out long term. I think there is genuine concerns about Kevin Danso. I think we mentioned this in the earlier part of the week that there's a concern around the fact that he may have incurred some kind of ligament damage. That's apparently going to be coming our way potentially in the next few days, but let's hope it's not as bad as what was first feared and being reported. I know Spencer's got this calf issue. There was an initial report suggesting he might be out for a month, which probably means he's out for 6. Osper, thoughts on United and what we should be expecting and what you're hoping for?
I was just laughing because you said, let's hope it's not as bad as first feared. When in the last 2 years has it ever that happened? It's always worse.
What I think is funny is that
much worse than was first feared. It's never better, ever. Are we going to lose? Sorry, I know Adam Nathan wants to go to bed. I don't see. They're on good form. They're flying. I really fear it. I am. I'm just being really serious. I'm not looking forward. Normally I am, and if it was Amarin, but the way they're at the minute, I'm sort of quite nervous about that they're going to come out flying and we're going to come out like a snail and maybe be, I don't think we'll turn up away at Old Trafford like we did in the second half when you've got your home crowd.
This is what worries me about it. Oscar, what's your prediction? What are you going to go for?
2-1 Spurs.
2-1 Spurs. You're nuts as well.
No, I don't know.
I don't want to be a pessimist, but it really feels like this could be Spurs in the 90s going to Man United. Does that make sense? When you're thinking,
what it feels. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking.
We could get whacked here. That's what I'm worried about. It could all unravel on the Sunday. Okay. I can't remember. We've got two 2-1s at Old Trafford. So we could be winning at United. We could be beating Man United 5 times in a row. That can't be a Tottenham thing. I'm sure Adam Nathan will bring us back down to earth. This is why we listen to him. Come on, Ad, bring us back down to earth. Old Trafford, what are we expecting up there? What's your gauge on the situation going up there? If we've got any players fit that is at the time?
I think you're bigging me down as much more of a doom merchant than I actually am. I try and keep a positive disposition on life where possible. But then Old Trafford comes into the equation and that becomes very difficult. I mean, even under Pochettino, I think we had a Saturday lunchtime game where we lost 1-0. It was a bit of a damp squib. Nothing really happened. And I think that's probably the most likely thing to happen, that we just lose a bit of a nothing game. But I think we'll beat Newcastle on Tuesday, which annoyingly, we're at this position in the season now where there's not a huge amount to play for more than just where are we going to pick up enough points to be comfortable. And I suppose if we can, take 3 from Newcastle considering we all thought, well, we won't get any points in February. We've got one so far. If we can back that up with a win against Newcastle, I think, it's not a good thing overall, but in context of where we are, unfortunately, that's probably the way I look at it.
And we're not in a Frank conversation. Very quickly on Frank, you think Adam Nathan still be very quickly on this point? Frank be there to the end of the season. You think, barring any kind of catastrophic result or run? That was Adam Nathan. Sorry, very quickly.
Sorry, and I've also seen someone said not much to play for a relegation battle. Yes, but where I say that, like, we probably need to get 10 more points to be safe, I would say. So that's where I'm thinking, like, where are we going to get the 10 to 12 points from? So there obviously is a lot to play for there. I think we had a brief in the running order that, that Frank's brought in 2 new physios. That's 9 people he's got under him.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that.
The harem of people that he's got. So it doesn't appear like it's going anywhere. No. I dare say, unfortunately, because I'm not the biggest fan. He's just not my kind of manager, not for me. But I can't see any way that he wouldn't be the manager for the rest of the season now, unless we got dumped out of the Champions League very unceremoniously and also sort of lost every game between now and then, and they really felt they had to have a jolt to stay up. That's the only way I can see Frank not seeing out the season.
You've been a star. Thank you so much. Make sure Echo of Glory, go and check him out. Absolute star. Love you having him on the panel. Thank you again for your time. Jack, very quickly on this with Frank, gut feeling for you here to the end of the season, barring any kind of catastrophe?
Yeah, definitely. And, as Flav keeps joking about on the Fighting Cock, if he stays till summer, then they're probably going to give him the summer. And then if he gets to summer, he stays till October, and it rolls on and on and on. So who knows? But I don't see him, much like Adam just said, barring a catastrophe, we start losing every single game, he's not going anywhere, I don't think.
Jack, thank you. A pleasure. Rule the Roost podcast. You've been a star. Osper?
Thank you, mate.
What do you reckon? Close with you.
I think probably he stays until the end of the season, but I think bearing in mind we've got Arsenal soon at home, if we lost a couple, there are our next 3 league games. I mean, if we got pumped to United, didn't get a decent result against Newcastle and got pumped at home to Arsenal, then I think you never know. Because if you get pumped at home to Arsenal, the atmosphere would be pretty bad. But I think...
Can it get worse in that first half? I mean, no one.
But I think you would be, if we're getting pumped at home, it'll be really, really toxic, right?
Yeah.
So I think if that happened, then yes. But I think the likelihood is, I reckon he'll stay.
Osper, you've been a star. Thank you so much. Guys, thank you so much. Wonderful panel. Make sure you go and, like I say, do the great stuff. Make sure you go and check out Jack Rule the Ruse, Adam Over, of course, Echo of Glory. Osper, I'm sure, will be on here. And hopefully these guys, we might catch him again before the end of the season. Osper, I don't look too happy about that, but probably will drive him mad to come back on. Thanks again to the nearly over 7,000-8,000 that have been with us again, suffering with us. Let's hope, guys, we're in for a good weekend. It comes on a Saturday lunchtime, so who knows? Can they really ruin the weekend that early? We'll see. From the superb Adam Nathan, the brilliant Adam Osper, the great Jack over at Rule the Roost. We've been the last one on Spurs. Thank you so much for your support. And as always, keep safe, keep well, and come on, you Spurs.